dildos being thrown on the court during WNBA games has become a thing. So, to further discuss the implications, we welcome to the program from the Dildo and Sports Institute. He is world-renowned dildo expert Dan Steele. Dan, welcome aboard. What makes you a dildo expert?
Just years of experience in the production of dildos and basically the safe use for dildos. I've studied this for years. You can try. By the way, we trend on Twitter at hashtag Dan Steele Dildos, so you can check that out too.
Okay, is any harm being done by throwing these dildos on the court at WNBA games? Is it dangerous and should it be stopped?
No, of course not. Nobody. This is where the demonization of dildos has really been, a course of action, which is kind of like marginalized the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States. So what it's done is it's created this narrative that dildos can cause harm, but nobody has ever been harmed by a dildo at a WNBA game.
Well, so far that's actually true. When you say hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners, that almost sounds like gun rhetoric. Do you see similarities there?
Not really. I mean, well, I don't. Because the gun is a weapon. The dildo is a instrument of love.
Uh-huh.
So it's two completely different narratives, and they're trying to conflate the two, which is demonizing the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States of America.
What about when Paul Stanley of KISS said, "That's no shotgun, that's my love gun"? Does that enter into this at all?
Well, he was conveying a message of love. So the dildos are a message used for love. So
an instrument of love, as you just said.
Correct, an instrument of love. Yeah. Let me ask you a question, like because you see the heat coming down on the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States, much like yourself, that they're trying to outlaw the dildos altogether. And I think that is a dangerous path to take because, what are we looking at now, going forward? Dildo confiscation? I mean, what are we going to do? Because, like, some dildos are thrown to court at a WNBA game, we're going to demonize the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States of America and try to confiscate their dildos. Logistically, that's not something that makes a lot of sense. Would you agree with that?
Well, as I've always said, if dildos are outlawed, then only outlaws will have dildos. But how did you know I had a dildo?
Well, I just assumed you have a dildo because there's 100 million legal dildo owners in the United States. Which dildo do you own?
I have the cocaine white model of the Demolition Man, 11 inches.
Oh, that's one of the more popular ones. But once again, you own the dildo. Can you see any scenario where the dildo might cause harm?
No. As you said, it's an instrument of love. I do like that term. But
and mind you too. A bad guy with a dildo can always be prevented by a good guy with a dildo.
That's true.
So like whenever there's harm is taking place, a good law-abiding dildo owner will usually subdue an unlawful dildo.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can even envision a situation where that would come into play, but I'm told the U.S. government has deployed the dildo police to investigate this WNBA thing. What exactly is the dildo police? I figure if anybody would know, you would know.
Well, it's very interesting that you've asked that because, across the national level, there's federally, there's well over 100 million legal dildo owners in the United States of America.
Yeah, so you keep saying.
And what we're seeing, right? So what's happened here is we've seen situations where people think that the dildos might be causing harm. Okay, so what's happened is the government is coming in, and then each state has different laws regarding dildo ownership. So what we're seeing is some of these sanctuary dildo cities where you're free from dildos. This is one of the things that the WNBA in conjunction with the
dildo
government,
free.
Well, correct. Sanctuary dildo cities. So what that does is, having these sanctuary dildo cities where dildos are just, completely not allowed because they think they're going to cause harm. What that does is marginalize, the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States of America. It's not the right course of action, in my opinion.
Well, it is worth noting that because dildos are, what do you say, instruments of love?
They're instruments of love.
Right. No WNBA players have been harmed by a dildo. I mean, there have been some flying on the court, but nobody has been harmed. I think it's been a nice visual, to be honest. And a lot of the WNBA players are lesbians. Shouldn't they be celebrating a hailstorm of dildos?
Well, I think the most hypocritical thing about this is that we can assume that a lot of these are that they're also dildo owners.
Well, but to be fair, they're part of the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners.
Correct, and so it's kind of almost hypocritical that they would try to pretend that these dildos can cause harm. I mean, the only way that you would think logistically a dildo could cause harm is if it's thrown on the court in a precarious situation where it enters something sideways, which would be
yeah, that's just not going to happen.
Right, exactly. So it's we're not even worried about the harm that could be caused by the dildos. As a matter of fact, the dildos are almost can be used as a protective measure.
How so?
If you're ever assaulted by somebody, you can if you pull the dildo out, it could use not only is it's I know it's an instrument of love, but it can also be an instrument of self-defense.
Well, right, and certainly intimidating. I mean, especially if you, like me, have the Demolition Man.
Right. I'm working with the WNBA right now. We're gonna resolve this matter, but I think it's kind of it's been blown out of proportion.
No pun intended.
I think the main problem that it's done, that this whole thing is this marginalized the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States of America.
And really demonized them. It's worse than marginalized. It's demonized the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners. And might I add, people talk like the Minnesota coach talked about the sexualization of women and how this has been going on for thousands of years. Have people indeed been throwing dildos at sporting events for thousands of years?
Not according to my knowledge. I mean, the dildo was invented, years after, the ancient times. But, I just think that we need to going forward.
That's not true. I think dildos were around in ancient times. There was a need for dildos then because they are instruments of love. Those people needed love too.
Yeah, that's true. But everybody loved each other. And there was more, the birth rates were higher back then, so people were, they really didn't need the dildos. They were using their own instruments, their own instruments of love.
Okay. Now I understand you have a podcast called "Let the Dildos Do the Talking." What can you tell us about that?
Well, we just have, every week we have on, hundreds of millions of some of the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States come on to share their experiences with the dildos and. Lately, because of this, we share, our platform. We'll platform people that disagree with us. So, we've had people on that want to, that have like some of the things we talked about. They talked about the sanctuary dildo cities. They've talked about the confiscation of the dildos because,
well, the dildo police. I mean, what are the dildo police trying to accomplish?
They just want to do away. Dildo. They want to ban the dildos. They want to make it illegal. And the thing is, too, though.
What would be worse, banning the dildos or registering the dildos? I don't like the idea of registering the dildos. In fact, I'm a little disturbed that you knew that I had a dildo.
Well, one of the more absurd things that they're talking about, because I'm in these talks on a daily basis, is that they want to do background checks for future purposes of dildos, which would just create a whole... Yeah, to get a dildo, yeah. Because these people think that they can cause harm. So they want to do a background check on somebody that's getting the dildos to think that, maybe these people might want to use the dildos for harm instead of using it as an instrument of love.
Or maybe they want to throw them on the court at WNBA games.
Right, which has never caused harm. They throw hats on the ice when a hockey player scores 3 goals. And you're trying to tell me that that's less dangerous than a single dildo? Dildos are instruments of love. They never cause harm.
Well, I don't know. Do you adhere to the single dildo theory?
Which is what?
I was making a joke about the Kennedy assassination, which frankly has gotten me in trouble before. So let's strike that from the record. It's my understanding that you have a website but it's not. Apparently you couldn't get the domain name for the Dildo and Sports Institute. So how can the listeners look at your website?
Well, that's very interesting, because you brought that up, and I was going to bring that up because we got, I don't know why, but we've been banned from X. I don't know whether the algorithm or whatever, but you can still follow our content on hashtag DanStillDildos. But the what you were talking about, what was your question again?
The website. What's the address?
The
of your
website.
website?
Yes, correct. We purchased FilthySteelerWives.com, and if you go to that, you can do. We purchased FilthySteelerWives.com.
Why FilthySteelerWives.com? Why would that be the website for the Dildo and Sports Institute?
It was for sale, and it hadn't been used in forever, and we thought that maybe because of the traffic to that site, that there were a lot of the hundreds of millions of legal dildo owners in the United States of America who were already engaged in that site. So we're going to change the name of the site. But right now, to see our content, you can go to FilthySteelerWives.com.